Hello everyone, my name is Rachel and welcome back to another true crime video. So the case that I have for you all today is a very frustrating, angering case. The way this case was handled is just going to make you want to scream. This should not have happened the way that it did, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what you all think after learning the details. I also want to make the disclaimer that a lot of the information in this video is alleged. It's mostly from one point of view, who you will learn more about in just a few minutes. A lot of the claims are not necessarily confirmed by the police, so don't take them all as complete fact, more so accounts from those who were involved in this case. Let's start the video off with introducing Christina and Ludwig Sonny Schumacher, who went by Sonny. Sonny Schumacher was an Air Force pilot for the National Guard. He joined the Connecticut National Guard in 1982, originally serving as a UH-1H helicopter pilot. Then he went on to the University of Connecticut, where he earned his bachelor's degree. Then he went on to the University of Connecticut School of Law, where he earned his Juris Doctorate to practice law. By 1989, he then joined the Vermont Air National Guard. He worked as a commercial pilot for a few years as well with Delta. From there, he went on to school a few more times to earn other degrees, such as his master's degree in security studies from the Naval Postgraduate School. Then he served in the Air Force Reserve as a regional emergency preparedness liaison officer, while also pursuing a master's of business administration degree at Norwich University. He also worked as an F-16 pilot with the National Guard while working part-time as an associate at a local law firm. Then, by the time of the incident, Sonny was working as an executive for Timberlane Dental in South Burlington. So clearly, Sonny was a very accomplished man, but beyond his accomplishments and his career, he also had a wife and 2 children. Sonny met Christina Schumacher in Vermont in the early 90s while they both happened to be working out at a local gym. Sonny introduced himself to Christina, who was a dancer at the time, saying that he just moved to Vermont, working as a pilot for the National Guard, and he was looking to meet people. He was handsome and charming, so Christina told him that she was going jet skiing that afternoon, and he asked if he could join her. So she told him if he could make it on time, that he could come. Things blossomed from there, and the couple were married by October of 1994. By 1996, Christina gave birth to their daughter Elise. Then, by January 7th, 1999, they had their son, Gunnar. Gunnar was a freshman at Essex High School at the time of his death. Gunnar was known for having an amazing sense of humor, a ton of energy, and a sense of adventure. He was curious and passionate for life. To those on the outside, it seemed that Sonny and Christina were just the best parents who gave their children the perfect lives. They had a nice house with a fenced-in yard in Essex Junction in Vermont, and the kids went to a private school. They rode 4-wheelers, dirt bikes, relaxed in the hot tub, and spent their summers at Cape Cod. The family traveled all around the world to places like Bermuda, Rome, France, London, Switzerland, Washington, Alaska, and Montana. Sonny loved telling everyone around them all the places that they've been to and all the stuff that they've done together as a family. But as you can expect, I wouldn't be making a video about this family to tell you about how perfect they were. According to Christina, there was never really a time in their marriage where they were truly happy. It seems as soon as they got married, Sonny began to abuse Christina. She said that it started as financial control and emotional abuse. Even though Christina had her own full-time job as a financial officer at GE Healthcare Corporation, Sonny always had control over the home's finances. He wouldn't even let Christina know what was going on with their financials. He wrote Christina a check for $3,000 each month for bills, but he wouldn't give her access to money outside of that. He insisted that she pay for everything on credit cards and checked the transactions that she made several times a day. He made sure that she never spent money on things that he didn't want her to. He would emotionally abuse her, allegedly, if she ever went out of line and did anything beyond what he wanted her to do. It was the same way with the children as well. Christina would later say that with the vacations and traveling, Sonny wanted everybody to know how great they were, but the children were miserable. They didn't necessarily want to go on all of those vacations. She says that if you look at the pictures of the children on vacation, they all look miserable. Then Sonny wrote a list of house rules that the family was to follow. They framed and hung them up on the wall and made 3-year-old little Gunnar agree to and sign the rules before he even knew how to write or knew how to understand the rules that he was agreeing to. They are as follows. I will not lie. I will keep my promises and I will be trustworthy. I will not cheat. I will not steal. I will not tolerate anyone who lies, cheats, or steals. I will keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. I will keep myself clean and my body healthy. I will strive to always learn more. I will help keep my home and community clean. I will honor my duty of loyalty to my family, my nation, and my friends. I will try to help strangers. I will do things willingly for others without pay or reward. I will be respectful to my parents, family, teachers, and other adults. I will be courteous. I will not use profanity. I will respect living things. I will not hurt or kill harmless things without reason. I will follow the rules of this family and my school. I will obey the laws of my community and country. If I think the rules or laws are unfair, I will try to have them changed in an orderly manner rather than disobey them. As you can see, the adorable little signature that Gunnar had was just precious. But you can also see that Sonny just wanted to control his family and give this appearance of a perfect family, when in reality, he was controlling, manipulative, and abusive behind closed doors. Now, when it comes to these family rules, I don't necessarily think that any of them are bad. Like, I don't think that this was anything that shouldn't be expected of people in general, but I do think the fact that they were printed out and signed by Gunnar is just another way of him being like, look, you disrespected the rules that you agreed to, so now the punishment that you get is because of your own actions, etc. As with so many situations of control, manipulation, and emotional and verbal abuse, things only grew out of control and they grew into physical abuse. Christina says that this started through things that would seem innocent enough, but were actually just Sonny's excuse to physically harm Gunnar, who, by the way, it seemed that Gunnar was the main target for the abuse outside of Christina. We don't know that for sure. Elise could have been abused as well, but because she wasn't necessarily involved in what happened at the end, we don't really know much about what happened with her. But we know what Christina has told us, essentially. Anyways, for example, there were times, allegedly, that Sonny would say, let's wrestle, to Gunnar, which again, seems innocent enough. Some rough play between a father and his son. But he was a trained military professional, so he would use all sorts of military pinches and holds on Gunnar. Then, to Christina, he would do moves where he would hold her neck and restrict her breathing to threaten her, but he never left bruises on either of them. He always knew how to intimidate and physically harm both Christina and Gunnar in a way that they couldn't tell anyone because it didn't leave marks. Again, this is all alleged by Christina's retelling. Christina went on to say that if she ever threatened to tell, he would say things like, it's my word against yours, and I'm a military officer, so who's going to believe you? These are just a few small examples of physical abuse at the hands of Sonny that Christina has reported, but there is so much more to that. This was years and years and years of control and manipulation tactics, threats, violence, and physical beatings to keep Christina in line. When she was later asked about why she didn't leave, she said that she knew he would kill her if she tried to leave, and if she ever did run off with the kids, he would hunt her down or would have someone else hunt her down. She was afraid to lose her kids to him, so she stayed so she could avoid that and protect her children from the monster that Sonny allegedly was. But near the beginning of 2013, the pressure became far too much to handle. Christina said that she had a nervous breakdown. She literally shut down to the point that she couldn't do laundry, she couldn't go grocery shopping, she couldn't even leave the house, even though she absolutely hated being in that house with that man. Christina said that between January and February of that year, she just crashed. It even got to the point where she could no longer perform her work duties, so she left her job. So she started seeing a psychiatrist for her mental health, but at that time, Sonny was always with her. He was always at her side during the appointments and wouldn't leave her alone. Christina said that she had a family history of bipolar disorder, so the doctor thought that this explained her mental health issues. So they prescribed her medication to treat depression and anxiety, and she went on her way. But even after she was prescribed medications to get some help, Sonny wanted to control that too. According to Christina, he kept her medications locked up in his office and gave it to her each evening. Just like he controlled everything else in Christina's life, he controlled her mental illness and her medications and treatments for it. From there, things continued to escalate. On Easter of that year in 2013, Christina recalled one of the more brutal and violent attacks that Sonny delivered to Gunnar. Now, around that time, 14-year-old Gunnar had this smoke machine that he was really having fun with, but his parents told him not to use it in the house. That Easter Sunday, Gunnar did just that, and he turned it on in the house, filling the bathroom with smoke. So, Christina was upset, and she told Sonny to do something about it. This is something that she says she regrets saying because she wasn't expecting the extreme reaction that she got from Sonny. According to Christina, Sonny stormed upstairs and confronted Gunnar about the smoke machine and started beating him. Gunnar got himself free, ran down the stairs and outside through the back door as Sonny chased him. Sonny then pinned Gunnar down, put his knee on his back, and put Gunnar in a pinch hold. Based on what I was able to find online, it looks like a pinch hold is when you're on top of the other person and you hold them by the neck in a headlock and you pull up. As Sonny was doing this to his 14-year-old son, Gunnar was trying to fight him off and was screaming and crying. Then he picked Gunnar up, holding him in a bear hug as Gunnar was fighting and kicking the side of the house to free himself. Once Sonny got Gunnar back inside, Gunnar tried to run away again, trying to leave out of the window, but once again, Sonny caught up with him, grabbed his foot, and pulled him back inside. Then he pinned him down and beat him again. Christina said that this whole thing was just a nightmare. She regrets not calling the police, but again, she was scared of how Sonny would react. By June of that year, she broke down again. She just couldn't take it anymore. She tried outpatient therapy once, but even that, Sonny had control over. So she checked herself in to an inpatient psychiatric center called Seneca Center in Burlington. There, she spoke with professionals for the first time about the abuse that she suffered from Sonny. And from there, she was given resources and was directed to Women Helping Battered Women. After receiving some care and some help from those various resources, finally, by July of 2013, Christina decided to leave. She filed for a relief from abuse order with the family courts, as well as for divorce. She told the judge how Sonny physically manhandled her son. She talked about the Easter incident where he put him in a headlock, carried him inside, and beat him. Then there was another incident that same month where Sonny was upset with Gunnar once again, and as Gunnar was lying on the bed, he flipped the bed, throwing Gunnar to the floor, and then flipped the living room table in a fit of rage. She stated that both of her children have experienced a pattern of threatening, violent behavior, which has left all of them terrified of him. She wrote that Elise, her daughter, was also fearful of him to the point that she was staying with a friend. She refused to stay at the home with them. Christina wrote that if she didn't file the petition, that Elise was planning to file one on her own. The judge did grant the order, saying that the only contact she would have with Sonny for 30 days was by email, and it was only to discuss the childcare arrangements for the children, but they would still share custody. From there, the couple was separated. Christina stayed in the family home while Sonny moved out and rented an apartment only 5 minutes down the street from the home. For that month of July, they had a sort of makeshift custody agreement. Gunnar would stay at one house while his sister Elise stayed at the other parent's house, and they would just switch back and forth whenever. At the same time, both teenagers would try to spend as much time at friends' houses, staying the night at their houses as often as they could to separate themselves from this whole ordeal, which absolutely makes sense. Even if there wasn't abuse going on, divorce and parent separating is just so stressful, and I can see why any teenager going through this would just want to be away from it all and would prefer spending several nights at friends' houses rather than constantly switching back and forth between parents' houses. Also, during this month, Sonny apparently was texting Christina incessantly. He would send some messages to sound appeasing and apologetic, saying that he would attend counseling, couples therapy, and that he would even seek psychiatric help for himself. He promised to continue helping Christina with her own mental health issues, saying that they could work through all of this together and come out stronger. But some of the messages turned more threatening, pushy, and obvious attempts at getting her back to trap her and control her once again. He was realizing that his picture-perfect life that he had created for himself was coming to a screeching halt. He had been working as an executive director at a medical practice at that time, like I mentioned earlier, and he even lost his job there. Everything was crashing down for Sonny. Then, by August of that year, Christina told the court that she was sick of this back and forth makeshift living situation that the children were put into. She requested full custody from the court, telling them about the abuse. She told them about the Easter incident again, where Sonny beat the hell out of Gunnar. But according to Christina, this judge just did not believe her. So he ordered a temporary order giving them split custody. Now, I'm not exactly sure how this arrangement worked, but according to other reports, it was decided that both children would choose where they lived. Even though there was split custody, they would be able to decide where they spent most of their time. As I stated before, both children were afraid of their father, but Elise wanted nothing to do with him, so she chose to stay with her mother, and she didn't really see her father. But Sonny had apparently convinced Gunnar to spend more time with him. Again, Christina really wanted full custody for the safety of her children, but she knew that she needed to be as complicit as possible with these court battles, so she cautiously agreed to let Gunnar split his time with his father. Again, she wanted to appease Sonny while continuing to fight for the children. She was afraid that Sonny would take the kids and leave the country with them, so she thought that this would at least settle them for now. So, Gunnar lived with his dad most of the time, and every Wednesday and every other weekend, he would go to his mother's. This agreement seemed to work for a bit, but by the middle to end of November in 2013, Gunnar expressed to his mom that he didn't want to be at his father's house because he was scared. Apparently, that weekend, he was all alone at his dad's house because Sonny went out of town and just left Gunnar there. Christina offered to bring Gunnar to her house that weekend, but because it was technically Sonny's weekend for him to be there, Gunnar expressed that he was scared of what his dad would do if he found out that he left and went to his mother's house. Christina would later say that she didn't know exactly what Sonny was doing to scare or threaten Gunnar, but she knew that Gunnar was a smart kid. He would know if his dad was going to hurt him, and Christina said that she knew too. So, Christina went to the AT&T store to buy Gunnar a secret cell phone and arranged to meet up with him in secret to give him that phone. Sonny would check Gunnar's cell phone, and he knew that if his dad found this kind of communication between him and his mom, that Sonny would be enraged. So she bought him a secret cell phone and told him to hide it from Sonny. She gave it to him so that he could call her whenever he wanted in secret. Then, because of all of that, Christina went to her attorney's office on Monday, December 9th, 2013, and told him that she needed full custody of Gunnar right now because his life was in danger. And to that, she was told that the courts are really backed up because of the holidays, so they couldn't do anything. That following Wednesday, Christina took Gunnar shopping. They went to his favorite clothing store, Polo Ralph Lauren, and she bought him a bunch of new clothes to keep at her house so that Gunnar didn't always have to pack a bag when he was switching between houses. That next weekend, he spent with his mother again. That weekend, Gunnar had some friends over, and he just had the best time. They rode around on four-wheelers, and Gunnar had this potato gun, so they shot some apples in the backyard with the potato gun. They went skiing that Saturday, and then watched a movie that night. By December 16th, Monday morning, Christina made Gunnar his favorite breakfast. They had Belgian waffles before she dropped Gunnar off at school that morning. That afternoon, Gunnar called Christina and asked her if she could pick him up from school instead of Sonny, since he left some things at the house by accident. So she picked him up and took him to McDonald's as a treat, which she said she didn't really like doing. But that day she said, why not? Then after going to McDonald's, she took him to the store to pick out a keyboard for his birthday, which was only a few weeks away. Then as they drove back to Sonny's house, Christina assured Gunnar that this was only temporary. He was set to spend Christmas at his mom's house, and after that, she had every intention of keeping him. She was hopeful that she would get full custody after the holidays were over. That same day, Sonny had actually called Christina and asked her to come over so that they could talk about Gunnar, but she ignored the message. Gunnar was dropped off at Sonny's home and went inside alone. That following day, at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, December 17th, one of Gunnar's friends, Johnny, called Christina. He was worried about Gunnar because he wasn't answering his phone or responding to any texts. Gunnar had always had his phone with him, literally sleeping with his phone every night, so there was no reason why he shouldn't be answering. So, Christina tried calling Gunnar as well, and he wasn't answering her either. She tried calling Sonny, and it was going straight to voicemail, which means that his phone was turned off, which was also very unusual. Then she even tried calling Sonny's mother, who also didn't answer. Then Christina called the principal of the school that Gunnar went to and found out that he hadn't been to school that day either. It turned out that Sonny had called the school on Monday night at around 10 p.m. and left a voicemail telling them that Gunnar would be out of school for the next few days. As time passed with no answer from either Sonny or Gunnar, Christina got more and more worried. Some of Gunnar's friends came over to the house all to try and figure out where Gunnar could be, but no one had seen him. No one had any idea of where he could be. So they drove past Sonny's apartment and they found that the car was still in the parking lot where it should have been, and it was covered in snow. It hadn't snowed since earlier that morning, so they knew that the car had been there all day. So the next stop they made was to the police department. She told the police that she needs help. She believes her son is in danger. But they told her that they were short-staffed and that it would just have to wait until the morning. So Christina left and started calling around to anybody that she could. She called her sister, who told her to relax and just go to bed and try to get some sleep. But she couldn't. She knew that Sonny had family in both France and Russia, so at that point, her fear was that he had left the country with Gunnar. That was her fear the entire time that they were battling for custody. So she contacted the Amber Alert to see if there was anything that they could do, but again, she was turned down. The next morning, a friend of Christina's called her to let her know that she heard about some sort of incident going on the news, but she wasn't exactly sure what was going on. So the friend picked Christina up and drove her to Sonny's apartment. When they got there, they saw that the cops were everywhere. They were surrounding the apartment. So Christina got out to talk to an officer, and she said that when that officer looked at her, she just could see in his eyes that Gunnar was gone. In that moment, she just started screaming and breaking down. It turned out that Sonny had been seeing another woman during that time, and on that day, December 18th, the girlfriend had come to Sonny's residence, and when she walked inside, she found that both Sonny and his son Gunnar were both dead inside. So she immediately called the police. After police found their bodies, they were sent off to the medical examiner for an autopsy. It turned out that Gunnar had died from asphyxia and Sonny had died from hanging himself. It was a murder-suicide. And according to Christina, she believes that Sonny wanted to kill her and Elise as well. Like I said, he invited her and Elise over for dinner on the evening of the 17th. That same evening was when Gunnar stopped replying, so it seems clear that this was the evening that Sonny murdered his son by strangling him, and he was also planning on killing Christina and Elise that same night before killing himself.
Essex, Vermont police were called to a Carmichael Street apartment building where 49-year-old Ludwig Sonny Schumacher lived, after a friend found the bodies of Schumacher and his 14-year-old son Gunnar inside. WPTZ broke this grim story, and David Charnes remains on the story tonight. He's live in the newsroom with the details. David, fill us in.
Well, George, like you said, investigators are calling this a murder-suicide. They say Sonny Schumacher killed his teenage son Gunnar in the apartment they shared in Essex. The 14-year-old, a student at Essex High School. State crime investigators head into a second-floor apartment at 8 Carmichael Street in Essex. Inside are the bodies of 49-year-old Ludwig Schumacher and his son, 14-year-old Gunnar.
We are going to flex our response to match the requirements. of the civilians on the ground.
Ludwig, known as Sonny, is seen here in a 2008 interview with WPTZ. He was a veteran Vermont Air Guardsman who left with a rank of colonel.
The middle-aged male was the aggressor.
Police allege Sonny killed his son, the method, though, not released. They then say he hanged himself in the apartment. Both bodies discovered Wednesday afternoon by a friend. Investigators have not released a motive, but say Sonny was going through a divorce and his son lived with him part-time.
At the scene, when Christina was being told that her ex-husband and son were dead, she broke down, as any other mother would. She grabbed her hair and started shaking and screaming, "You didn't listen, and now he's dead." Christina's sister arrived to the scene around that same time and just offered comfort in whatever way she could. But the following day, Christina had an appointment with her psychiatrist. The appointment had already been booked previously, so she went to that appointment as scheduled. But when she got there, there were 4 security guards there. Apparently, Christina's sister called her psychiatrist and said that she was a danger to herself and others and that she needed to go away. When she found this out, she was outraged. Christina flew into a panic and started yelling, so she was placed into handcuffs. Then she was involuntarily committed to Fletcher Allen Healthcare in Burlington on a 72-hour hold. While there, she found herself locked in a secure unit being given antipsychotics. She was allowed to attend her son's funeral, but she wasn't allowed to be with her daughter during that time. Then she started refusing medication and stopped working with the medical staff. She said that she was alone and away from her daughter in a time where she just found out about her son being murdered, and all she wanted to do was comfort her daughter and be there for her. Her daughter also just found out that her brother and her dad were now dead, but they weren't letting Christina be there for her. By all accounts, she did truly act in a manner that was concerning to the staff around her. She was yelling at the staff, slamming doors in the doctors' faces, throwing chairs, and screaming at the doctors as well. She was mentally unwell, as we know. But again, she had just found out that her son was murdered at the hands of her ex-husband, and she was being held against her will. She sat and watched as somebody else got to write her son's obituary and hold services for him that she wasn't allowed to attend. I can't even begin to imagine how painful and awful that must have been for her. She was held in that psychiatric unit for over a month before a judge ordered her immediate release on January 24th.
I have a long story, but I don't have enough time to tell you all of it. We would be here probably all week. There's so much information to tell. I was involuntarily checked into Fletcher Allen Healthcare Psych Ward 6 weeks ago. The day after I found out my husband murdered my 14-year-old son on my daughter's birthday. And then he hung himself. He strangled my son to death. Just that experience alone is more than any mother should ever have to bear. I'd never wish it upon anyone. The next day, I had a lot of friend support. I had a regular therapy appointment. I figured it'd probably be a logical thing to do, to actually go to that therapy appointment. So I made the choice to go. I arrived at the appointment, there were 2 security guards outside of my doctor's office. I go in, not only was there my therapist, there was the director of a program there was another doctor. They had all made the decision before I even arrived that they were going to check me into the mental health facility, a woman that just experienced the hell of her life. That night, I lived through the fires of hell, just dealing with what I dealt through. And I may not be crying right now because I have cried so many tears in the psych ward by myself for 5.5 weeks, locked up. My family turned against me. They're sitting in the room right now. I didn't even have the support of my own sisters and brothers. Instead, they wanted me to be locked up and put on medication. So here I am, stuck on SHEP 6, the acute ward of Fletcher Allen Healthcare, behind 4 walls. I had patients throw chairs at me. I had a woman sit outside of my room who was mentally ill and needed more help than she was getting. She swore words that I can't even repeat in this room for 24 hours straight. I finally got that to stop by telling the doctor for the 3rd time that it was killing me. One night, I walked the halls because I couldn't sleep at night because I had nightmares about how my son was murdered. I would wake up all night long and then I'd get in trouble by the doctors for not sleeping all night. But would you sleep having nightmares about that? Would you want to go to sleep? No. But they gave me over it every day saying, you're not sleeping, you need to take more drugs. They put me on strong antipsychotics. I know I only have 30 seconds left. But the bottom line is no one should have to endure the death of their son, the death of their husband, and then put into that situation. Only when I decided and determined, thanks to the help of Lindsay Owen, the attorney for disability rights of Vermont, because she showed up. She saved me that day. She showed me what my rights were, and then I started standing up to the doctors. And I started telling them off. They didn't know whether to kick me out or to lock me up forever. Well, guess what? I fought for my rights, and I'm out of there. And no one should ever have to endure what I've gone through. It has been hell. And I will not stop fighting this fight, because no one should ever have to deal with this. Thank you.
Hey!
No thanks to my family who did not support me.
All right, hold on.
Fight me.
After that, police continued to investigate the whole ordeal, and they came to find out that Sonny had actually been planning this for a while, and he did so very extensively. Police found out that just a day before the deaths, Sonny had sent out multiple packages that he sent out to various family members and friends, with one being delivered to Christina. In the package to Christina, there was a multiple-page document that outlines Sonny's motivations for his actions. Other documents that he sent to other family members said much of the same. Using this, police have said that there was substantial planning before the murder-suicide, but they would not elaborate further, and to this day, they haven't released the note or any other documents that were sent out to the family and friends. They also haven't revealed any of the other documents that showed the planning. All I know is that they combed through his phone records and financial records, and they came to that conclusion. Another thing that they found out that we actually do have details on is that Sonny actually changed his will right before the deaths. On December 16th, he actually requested to change the executor of his will to his sister. He wrote that he leaves all of his tangible property to his sister. He also wrote in the will, quote, I intentionally omit making any provisions in this will for my wife, Christina F. Schumacher. I am doing that because of the ongoing divorce proceedings that she initiated. He wrote in his will that should his children survive him, that he wants his sister to be their legal guardian. He also requested that his sister distribute his ashes at the time and place of his choosing. So clearly, he knew that he was going to die, and he wanted to make sure that if anybody survived, that his ex would get nothing. So I think that we can see that he clearly planned this. He planned to kill himself and his son, and I do agree that I think he tried to kill Christina and Elise too, but he knew he wouldn't be able to, so he acted out and killed his son and then himself. In the aftermath of this, Christina has come out to say that she has a lot of anger towards Sonny, of course. But after quite a while of trying to make sense of this and mourning the deaths, she said, quote, I finally got to the fact that my daughter still has to live her life and it's still her father. I decided that he was a good guy that did bad stuff because he was messed up and mentally ill, and he needed help, and he didn't get it. It's taken a lot to get there. I had a lot of anger for Sonny. I had a lot of anger for Sonny. She went on to say that what she is mad about is those who chose not to believe her, those who she went to and tried to get help for her son, but ignored her. She said that because of her mental health issues, everybody passed off her worry for her son's well-being as paranoid delusions. They thought that because of her diagnosis, that she was manic depressive and was making things up. She said, quote, nobody ever believed me. I told the judge that summer. I told the attorney the week before. They didn't believe me. I told the local police. They didn't believe me. And I hate them. I hate them for it. Because nobody listened, and now my son is dead. And they could have saved him, and I couldn't. So that's pretty much where the case sits right now. Obviously, this was an extremely tough case to get through. It's yet another case where there are genuine concerns, and law enforcement gets involved. The courts are told about what is going on, yet nobody does anything, and the kids are just left to live with their abuser. Gunnar was only 14 years old, almost 15, when he died. I'm sure that his whole life he was confused. He was beaten, abused. But his father clearly went to great lengths to manipulate him and make him believe that living with him was the better option. It reminds me a whole lot of the Grant and Gracie Solomon case, how Angie had been thought to have all of these mental health issues to the point that Aaron Solomon convinced his kids and everybody else that she was dangerous and mentally unstable, even though he was the one hurting his children. Then to know that Gunnar's father took his life when he was the one who stuck with him is just so sad and heartbreaking. It's infuriating, it's sad, and I just wish it didn't happen the way that it did. My heart hurts for Gunnar and his mom and his sister who now have to live a life without him, all because of the selfish acts of a clearly mentally unwell and alleged abusive monster. But that is all I have for today's case. I honestly don't think any more information will be released because it's been a couple of years since this case was solved. There's nobody going to trial as far as I know. There's no other charges being brought in this case because the perpetrator has died. So I don't think we're going to be finding out too much more. I'm really interested in learning what those documents say, what the notes say, but I don't think police want us to know at this point, so that's where it's left. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. So let me know what you think about this case in the comments below. Do you think more could have been done to prevent this from happening? Do you think that Sonny was also planning to kill Christina and Elise that night as well? Let me know this and any other thoughts that you have in the comments below. If you like this video, please make sure to go ahead and leave this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I put out new true crime and mystery videos every single week. Don't forget to turn that notification bell on so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. Make sure you go ahead and check out my Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All will be linked down below. And if you have absolutely any case suggestions, please make sure to go ahead and fill out the Google form that is also listed down below as well. With that, I hope you guys have an amazing week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.